I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Leah's Pantry. I'm actually filling in today for Adrienne Markworth, our Executive Director, who is also on the call, but with a nasty case of laryngitis, and she didn't want to subject you all to her very raspy voice this morning. I'm joined today by Bethany Hendrickson, who directs the Nutrition Pantry program, as well as two guests from our partner organizations. Yanira Frias from the Community Resource Center in Encinitas and Alexa Roche from Catholic Charities of Fresno will both be sharing their experiences today with the assessment and implementation of the Nutrition Pantry program at their sites. Since we have a large group on the webinar, or we're expecting a large group, we have muted all of our participants, but we enter comments and questions via the chat box. So this will run for about 45 minutes before Q&A at the end, and all presenters will be able to stay on to any questions. So be several times during the webinar where we ask for feedback from the audience in the chat box or via a poll to keep you all awake and engaged. So take a minute to make sure you know where the chat box is on your screen. And we are actually going to start with a poll right now just to get a sense of who's in the room with us. So go ahead and indicate your answer to this poll, and then we'll be able to see the live results here. Apologies about the typo of role at the food pantry. That should have been spelled R-O-L-E. Okay, slides from this webinar are going to be available for download, and we'll be recording this webinar since there are some folks who are not able to join us live today. And as is the case with all of our webinars, we will post the recording on our website. So we are pasting the link of the website into the chat box. And we'll be able to send an email to all webinar registrants when the recording is up. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and share the results on the poll. And then we'll be able to move forward. For those of you who are not familiar yet with our organization, Leah's Pantry believes in healthy eating for all. We have a variety of products and programs you may already be familiar with, including our Food Smarts nutrition and cooking curriculum, our Cook It Kitchen in a Bag program, our award-winning website eatfresh.org, and our most recent addition, the Nutrition Pantry program, which came to the Pantry late last year via a merge with my former organization, Superfood Drive. Leah's Pantry also serves as a fiscal sponsor of the San Diego Food Systems Alliance, which is a vibrant collaborative of over 40 member organizations and countless working group members who make a really big impact on the entire food system in San Diego County. Leah's Pantry makes it in two major ways. First, individuals, communities, and organizations develop a relationship with food through interaction with our passionate staff members, trauma-informed client-centered programs, and innovative products. By bringing people together to share meals, learn culinary skills, and tell stories, we make space for positive memories, reflection, and practice. And second, the systems that affect vulnerable populations, so food security, health, housing, and social services, evolve to incorporate nutrition security outcomes into their programs and initiatives. By implementing multi-level interventions and dedicating time to multi-stakeholder, cross-sector projects, we inject client-centered perspective and progressive nutrition security principles into the conversation. Our shorthand definition of nutrition security is combine food security with public health nutrition. Food security strategies, whether CalFresh or SNAP benefits or the Charitable Food Network, can prioritize long-term mental and physical health of vulnerable individuals while still meeting short needs. And we also believe that public health nutrition messages can take into account client perspective and exposure to trauma. So these concepts are extremely important in the food pantry network, which, as we all know, has become a regular and essential source of nutrition for over 50 million Americans. Over the past few years, we've seen a surge of interest in creating healthier pantry environments. A wide range of exciting initiatives are in play around the country, and we're so pleased with the interest on this webinar to learn more about the Nutrition Pantry program. The Nutrition Pantry program provides a process for implementing practical, client-centered strategies for a health-focused environment in all types of food distribution sites. Before Bethany goes into the details of NPP, I'd like to step back and look at the current landscape in California. This webinar was developed specifically for Catholic Charities of California and other California-SNAP implementers, but we know we have guests from around the country and many from outside the SNAP-Ed network joining us today. In case you're not familiar with the term SNAP-Ed, it refers to a funding stream that's dedicated to nutrition education and obesity prevention for low-income Americans. Earlier this year, Leah's Pantry did an analysis of the California County work plans to determine what types of activities were currently underway in the food pantry setting. And what we found was really exciting. Over 50 counties included activities at food pantries, and more than half of those counties committed to activities designed to make changes at the policy, system, and environmental change level. As many of you know, these changes, which are referred to as PSEs, have been a particular focus of the SNAP-Ed program, both in California and nationally. But there are several areas for improvement. For one, California has not adopted a standard framework or assessment tool for the food pantry setting. As a result, it's hard for counties to tell their stories or measure their impact in a consistent way. Further, for counties who want to start doing this work, there's not an agreement about where to start, a possible order of operations, or how to layer interventions in a way to increase impact. And finally, we noticed that there was a tendency to default to creating a policy as a first step or as a final goal. And while we absolutely support the creation of policies as appropriate, we don't recommend it as a first step, nor do we think a policy on its own demonstrates actual impact at the client level. So what are we really trying to do? A few questions we hope to answer is, what is the overall goal of a PSE in a food pantry setting? How can we be responsive and effective in setting goals when there is so much diversity? Food pantries exist in a wide variety of places: homeless shelters, elementary schools, college campuses, parking lots, supportive housing, the list goes on. And some pantries are open every day and clients are invited to choose and customize their food, while other spaces host a distribution once a month or are only able to distribute a bag of commodities. So how can we partner with you on this work to demonstrate our impact, to find best practices, and keep moving forward? Outside of SNAP-Ed, there are partners in this work just coming onto the scene. We have a lot of activity happening specifically in San Diego County that's tied to waste reduction initiatives. And Adrian has been really enjoying learning about the work in this area and finding ways to advocate for nutrition security goals and avoid the risk of donation dumping. Additionally, there's a tremendous opportunity to combine the Nutrition Pantry program with capacity building grants to ensure that when a pantry gets a new fridge, for example, they also get comprehensive technical assistance and support. And Unira will be sharing her story about this later on today on the webinar. Although the food banks have been experts in waste reduction for years, new regulations coming down from the state are bringing municipalities, waste haulers, gleaners, and others into the conversation, so they can be educated and brought under the tent for the same initiatives we're focusing on. So the client is the center of this program is our clients. One of the first things required for the Nutrition Pantry program is to use client feedback to guide the work in each focus area and to consider client perspectives in all decisions. Surrounding the client are 6 focus areas with existing activities to help identify growth areas within your pantry. So let's start with the environment. Clients warmly welcomed and healthy options are both easy to assess. So think about a food pantry you've been in recently, maybe one where you work or maybe a partner pantry. Were there things that pantry did to welcome clients in a dignified way? And actually, if you take a moment and let's share some ideas in the chat box. So when you reflect on a recent visit at a food pantry, or what are some of the ways that that environment is a dignified environment for your clients? And we'll just take a moment for anyone to add. So we have some good activity in the chat box. I'm excited to see what pops up. Okay, well, feel free to please go ahead and contribute anything that you think of when you're thinking about a dignified environment for your pantry, and we can refer to the chat box if anything pops up there in the next few moments. So the neat thing about if you're sharing some examples of how to create a dignified environment during an assessment, it would help to form your baseline and whether your pantry is a seed, sprout, or bloom in this specific focus area. So for example, when we're talking about dignified environment, we can say what has been created to make sure that when your clients arrive, they feel welcome, they feel like they matter. Has the environment been adjusted, for example, so they don't have to sit outside in the elements, whether it's a hot sunny day or outside in the rain? Is there some education or activities while people are waiting to receive their food? So there's some ideas like those that go into creating sort of a dignified environment, and we'll have some more ideas that we share later on with Bethany. So the number of seeds, sprouts, or blooms in the Nutrition Pantry certification you receive will ultimately determine the certification level at the end of the program. Overall, organizations must demonstrate a commitment to the 6 focus areas you see here to receive a gold certification. And because each pantry is unique and capacity varies so widely, there's definitely variation on how pantries meet these objectives. So while we have a specific menu of strategies from which to draw ideas, we don't have a prescribed list of things you need to do in your pantry. And this is a new program for the most part. There have been pantries who have already completed the intervention, but prior to us adopting the seed, sprout, and bloom structure. So you'll hear from 2 of these pantries that are currently in the process in just a few moments. But it's important for us to be really transparent and share that this program is still evolving, and we really look forward to the feedback of many of you who are on this call as we move forward. So MPP is currently active in several different ways. We work with individual pantries, and we collaborate with other projects and funders, and we work directly with food banks to offer support to their pantry partners. For Catholic Charities programs, we will work closely with your pantry staff, the SNAP-Ed team, and Alyssa at the state level to make sure we're sharing ideas, supporting one another's efforts, and communicating our impact as a team. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Bethany now to get into the nitty-gritty of the Nutrition Pantry program.
Thank you, Ruthie. So as mentioned, as a process that helps organize client-centered, health-promoting work in food pantries. So while the process flow for each pantry is roughly the same, the plans that are developed are unique to each setting. So this slide is just to reinforce that we use a growth model where pantries are encouraged to grow, are mostly compared to themselves, not other pantries. So this is an essential element of our program. As Ruthie mentioned earlier, the diversity in the food pantry setting makes standardization impossible and unhelpful. So I'll mention that we have an online portal that houses many of the materials and processes that I'll be talking about. The function is similar to an online classroom where pantries can track progress, access resources, view examples of how other pantries have implemented their different focus areas. And this is a place to connect with a community of pantries to ask questions and share ideas. So we do have some pantries that are currently using our portal, but it's in a testing phase. And if you would like access to the portal, we'll work with you on an individual basis to get you in. We first ask our partners to do an assessment of their pantry setting and request client feedback. We use the Health Food Pantry Assessment, which is a validated survey tool developed by Washington State's RNECE. It covers questions on the environment outside of the pantry, food quality and variety, cold storage capacity, and policies and practices of a pantry. It provides a score for each of these sections and a total score out of 100. The intention behind this isn't to score or rate pantries or compare pantries to each other, but it provides a baseline and starting point for pantries to measure their progress. And this will soon be available online via Qualtrics, which will do all of the score calculating and has that nice skip logic built in. Adrian tested it out yesterday at Catholic Charities in San Diego, and it worked great. So I think we're close to releasing this to our partners very soon. Early on, we also encourage pantries to learn from their clients and incorporate their voice into the process. So let's pause here again and take a poll to determine how those of you on this call integrate client feedback into your pantry work. So I'll pull up this survey. See. So it looks like it was a mix of, many of you use informal conversation, paper surveys, focus groups are less popular, but it all sounds like you're using, one or two ways to gather client feedback. So there are a lot of different ways to gather client feedback. This can be done through surveys distributed on the line, asking about food preferences, dietary needs, kitchen accommodations, and interest in nutrition education. Other ways include encouraging clients to fill out a comment card. So this could be a general comment, or you could have a new question each month. Also, inviting clients to participate in focus groups or listening sessions is another method. And I just suggest making sure to offer an incentive or pay to show that their time is valued. Collecting this feedback also bolster the case that you might present to a donor or board for making any of the changes that you'd like. But at the heart of client-centered work is regular listening and responding to client needs. So after reviewing the assessment and feedback from clients together, we take a look at each of the 6 focus areas, review the value statements, and make any changes to best align with the organization's own values. So next, we identify what is already happening in each area, and it's a nice practice to pause and recognize the great work that's already going on. But it's also the way that we start to determine the seed, sprout, or bloom category for this focus area. Next, we identify a wish list of things that pantries would like to see incorporated. So often you'll already have an idea of what things you'd like to improve, and we'll also have things to suggest based on promising practices across the country and in the research and in what we've seen done at other pantries. And I'll go into this in a little more detail later. From there, we use the seed, sprout, and bloom phrases to determine your growth category. Seed is how we describe an organization who has not yet started to work in this focus area. Sprout is for organizations who can identify specific strategies but still have things they want to accomplish. And Bloom is how we identify focus areas where strategies are in place and sustainable. And there's not much more to be done at this point. So I'll go into some examples of strategies used to implement healthier, client-centered practices in each growth area. But I want to pause for now, and I'd like to introduce Alexa Roche, who is a SNAP coordinator at Catholic Charities of Fresno. So we recently started working with their team on the Nutrition Pantry program. We're sharing some background on their organization and pantry and their experience with the beginning stage of the Nutrition Pantry process. So we'll have time for some Q&A at the end, but please type your questions for Alexa in the chat box as you think of them. So I will turn this over to her right now. Let's see, I want to make sure that Alexa is not muted. Let's see, are you there? Okay, Alexa, I think I hear you.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Hey, all right. So this is a short background with Catholic Charities of Fresno. We served last year in 2017 about 75,000 individuals visiting Catholic Charities. We have approximately about 120 families that we serve each day. And we about serve, depending on the day, about 5,000 to 7,000 pounds of food. So we do a lot within the clients here in Fresno, especially in downtown. And we work with all different types. So we basically start with beginning of the month, we have a USDA food commodities distribution, and then at the end of the month, we have a healthy neighborhood market. So we do a lot of access where we provide fruits and vegetables to individuals, but with adding in the nutrition pantry program and adding the potential policies that we're kind of starting with. So first started working with Stephanie, we decided to do the food pantry assessment tool, which is a survey you guys all saw earlier. It took us honestly about 30 to 45 minutes of completing the survey, of just walking our site, seeing what we had to provide of that day. So we, depending on what we get each day, it varies. So we have a lot of donors, and depending on what we get is what we distribute to our clients. So that would be fruits and vegetables as a main component. We'll also have bread and different kind of non-perishable foods. We did our assessment tool. We kind of based off on like the walkability checklist, where our food pantry is actually located in the back of our location, and depending on how, so just the walkability alone was the eye-opener for us to see that maybe we need more signage and doing things like that can make a big difference for our clients. Even passing by individuals can see that we have a food pantry available to all to come by and find out more information about. Another thing that we realized when we were doing a food pantry assessment, it was easy for us to kind of see what we can do within our food pantry, like rearranging our fruits and vegetables, being more viewable. After doing the assessment tool, it was really easy for us to see potential ideas and opportunities for our food pantry to succeed in distributing more fruits and vegetables, because we have done a previous intake of our clients' opinions by kind of seeing what they would like within our food pantry, such as like more fruits and vegetables, and especially concerns about health. So I had a lot of concerns with our clients coming in of diabetes, hypertension, and different things like that. So they want more fruits and vegetables. And something else with the assessment tool that helped us was being able to provide recipes for the individual. So just using the assessment tool alone was very eye-opening for us. And then along with our clients, we were able to do the client survey where the clients were able to admit or give us ideas of what they would like such as what is most important to you about the food you get here. So that's here at Catholic Charities, and they answered a few more other questions. But the good thing we've noticed a lot of was that what was important to them was that it would be healthy, that it would be fresh, and filling. So these are things that we can really start working on here at our food pantry. I mean, I'm not sure about everyone else's, about their process, but for us, we want to start off with just kind of focusing on those three things and making sure we're reaching that goal. And then we're going to start doing signage. Right now, we're doing recipe distribution to our clients. But I think from now on, we're just going to be taking small steps, like how Bethany has suggested to us, like making those small steps and different things to do here in order to make a big change in the future, such as a nutrition policy. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alexa. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we will address them at the end of the webinar. That was so helpful. I really appreciate it. I'm now going to introduce Yanira Frias, who is the Food and Nutrition Program Manager at the Community Resource Center in Encinitas. We were initially introduced to them through a food storage mini grant they received this fall through the San Diego Food Systems Alliance. And we've been working with them on implementing some of their nutrition pantry goals. So I will pass it off to you, Yanira.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Yanira. I'm the Food Nutrition Program Manager down at the Community Resource Center in Encinitas. In addition to our food pantry, we also have several programs. We have a domestic violence shelter, we have professional counseling, we have legal advocacy, homeless prevention, rental and housing assistance. So our Food and Nutrition Center houses two programs, one which we call the Breadline and the other which we call a Food Distribution Program. Our Breadline program is basically designed to fill a meal in the morning, usually 3 to 4 produce items, 3 to 4 bread items, a drink, a ready-to-eat item, which is usually like a sandwich or a salad. And our participants in this program are either homeless or a household of one. So this distribution is set up like a walk-up window. Our participants walk up to the door and our volunteers are able to assist them then and there. We typically see about 100 participants in this program on a monthly basis. And this is just a really great program. It offers, a light meal to some participants who are usually homeless and coming on in, or someone who's just passing by. And they can access this on a weekly and a daily basis. Our food distribution program is our afternoon program. So this program is typically set for participants who are homeless or low income, and they get to actually shop through and get groceries and food on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. It's set up like a grocery store. So we have pantry shelves full of dry and canned goods. We also participate in the Fresh Rescue programs through our partnerships with the San Diego Food Bank and Feeding San Diego that really enable us to pick up perishable donations like fresh fruits and vegetables, meats, dairy, from local grocery stores Monday through Friday, and this is what we also distribute as well. We distribute about 450 pounds of Fresh Rescue a year. And our pantry operates on a point-based system where, depending on the income and the household, our participants are allocated a certain number of points and they can shop with that. So our pantry items are all assigned a point value with a certain number of points through the pantry. The more nutritious items are priced at a lower point value, and our less nutritious items are priced at a higher. So this is just an effort to encourage our participants to spend more of their points on nutrition items. Our Fresh Rescue perishable items are all free of points, and so this would be your fruits, vegetables, your meats, and your dairy. We also have pet food, and we also distribute commodities. And in this program, we see about 250 participants on a monthly basis. So in combining both programs, we see about 1,000 participants visit a month. And so what really sparked a desire to make changes in the pantry is, like most food pantries, we all could use more refrigeration and freezer units to house the food that we get in order to distribute it. And we saw an opportunity to apply for a cold storage mini grant through the San Diego Food System Alliance and Leah's Pantry, and we know we had to apply. So before we were awarded this cold storage unit, we ran into not having enough cold storage to preserve some of the produce and perishable meals that were coming in through our Fresh Rescue. Some of these items would come in with shelf life of about a few hours or even just a day, and we really wanted a way to extend the life of these foods. So this was just a great opportunity for us to be able to do that with proper refrigeration, and we're really grateful for this mini grant. And now we have a beautiful glass refrigerator that really houses these items, and we can preserve them for longer and distribute them out. We were also looking for ways to improve our nutrition center. One thing that we always strive for is coupling food distribution with nutrition and quality of life. So our goal was to offer nutrition resources, workshops, recipes, because we just want to send our participants out the door with the food. We wanted to really follow through with that and send them off with the proper knowledge about nutritious foods and what to do with them when they get home. So Leah's Pantry has really given us the tools to achieve this. Our NGP experience with Leah's Pantry has been so wonderful. I can't express that enough. They're very helpful. It's a very seamless process. We've been through the assessment tool in which Bethany came in and kind of looked around all over our food center. And then I had the opportunity to actually go over that with Adrian on a one-on-one basis and really took some time to dive in and see where we could work and where we were excelling. And we went through the 6 focus areas, and this was really helpful because we got to see where we were already, sprouting, blooming, and where we needed work. And this was just a really great opportunity. And we got to dive into the areas. And you even noticed, you're already excelling at some areas, and there's some areas that you didn't even know existed that you could really make a change in. So that was really great for us. So our next steps with Leah's Pantry is to really work closely with them on offering eatfresh.org mini courses to our volunteers and interested participants. We want to build an on-site garden. We want to have volunteers and clients maintain it as well. We're also working on identifying and labeling some areas in our pantry for low sodium items on our pantry shelves. And we want to work up to that, that gold certification. And so I think it'll be a really a great accomplishment for us. And it's really fun, and it's working with Leah's Pantry is great, and I can't really express that enough. They're a really fun team to work with and very easy. And we now have this beautiful refrigerator, and we have a recipe rack with recipes that are just flying off the shelf. And I encourage, all food pantries to get involved, just the resources, and we have posters and everything that really helps make nutrition, food, and nutrition and all in general, visible to our participants is just really great. So we've had a blast with them.
Thank you so much, Yanira. So a huge thank you to both Alexa and Yanira for sharing their experiences. I hope it was able to give some insight into how all types of distribution sites can use or make small changes that can result in a big impact over time. So NPP can also begin the process of a mental and organizational shift into becoming client and nutrition focused. So pantries are all so different and will identify different priorities, but all can use a framework and process to organize the work. So now we'll talk about how we implement NPP. So I'll dive a little bit deeper into our focus areas and the values they support, and also give some examples of changes pantries can implement to support these values. So let's see. So this slide shows the implementation plan. Actually, I'll go back one slide. Oh, excuse me. Okay, sorry, Ruthie. Ruthie's doing my slides and I messed up. So this slide shows the implementation plan for the nutrition education focus area at CRC. So the value identified with nutrition education is that clients, volunteers, and staff have access to nutrition and culinary education. So this here, the form that you see right here, this came together after identifying current practices in each focus area, identifying a wish list of what they would like to happen, and determining what is realistic, giving staffing and resources. So it's not a long list detailing a major revamp, but 5 to 6 next steps that are realistic and that are personalized. So the key is that the steps were identified by the pantry themselves. And in general, nutrition education can take a variety of forms. It can be direct or indirect education and trainings. It can include the addition of online tools, hands-on culinary experiences, and specialized nutrition counseling. So some of you are lucky to have SNAP Ed educators working at your sites, delivering direct ed, doing demos and taste tests. And in the case of RC, a volunteer RD has made herself available for individual consults. So Pantries have also paired with local nursing colleges or with an RD intern from the food bank to share nutrition messages with clients. We heard yesterday from Catholic Charities in San Diego that they're often able to deliver one-on-one nutrition ed to clients as part of their intake process. So for others, indirect opportunities may be more feasible. So distributing recipe cards, offering taste tests, and giving referrals to eatfresh.org are easier things to incorporate in almost all settings. So also consider whether training for your volunteers and staff would support this focus area at your site. So not only are volunteers often the point of contact for clients when they have questions, but also when changes occur at your pantry, it's important to have a foundation built to help answer the question of why. So Leah's Pantry eatfresh.org mini course is often used for this purpose since it's delivered online and easy to access in small chunks. So to access the mini course, you'd visit eatfresh.org, you'd click through the pink button and follow the trail to the login page where staff can create a new account. So on the account page, you can use the referral code TEACH, T-E-A-C-H. So you can all do that right now if you'd like, to enter the mini course for educators, which does not include any pre and post questionnaires. So staff can take, 5 to 7 minute courses in whichever order they would like. So I'll share now an example of a Food Smarts for Food Pantries training agenda. So some pantries conduct training on site or send staff to a Food Smarts for Food Pantries training. So this slide shows a sample agenda. We find that taking a day for lead staff and volunteers to attend a training like this helps everyone to be on the same page in order to deliver consistent messages about basic nutrition and learn practical tools. So for example, how to combine nutrition education with food selection via recipes or bundling displays, and I'll talk about that in a minute, or how to set up the pantry environment to be welcoming and health promoting. So your trained staff can also take on the role of passing these messages on to other pantry team members. So a next focus area is environment. Ruthie mentioned this earlier, but we'll continue the conversation now. We know we want clients to be warmly welcomed and healthy options easy to access, and we heard some great ideas of how to do that earlier. So what is the environment like at the pantry? Part of this is using nudges to promote healthy food selections. And this is similar to retail or smarter lunchroom strategies, but it goes beyond signage. So for example, do we have a trauma-informed way of understanding the stress of hunger relief, and are we addressing it appropriately? So this is where we encourage pantries to look at wait times, dignity policies, and the way clients are received and treated. But one example I'd point out is a pantry who had clients lining up around the block hours before the start of distribution. And one reason for this was a fear that the most desired foods might run out. So to address this, the pantry implemented appointment times for clients and made sure that enough desirable items were reserved for clients who had appointments in the last half of distribution. So this was clearly communicated, and the process decreased stress for clients in line. So the concept of nudging uses behavioral economics to emphasize and encourage the health foods. So this can be done by ensuring healthier foods are easy to access through small changes in placement. Using tablecloths, baskets, or crates, or bright signage is another way to make these foods attractive and has the added benefit of beautifying the space. So this concept is hard to put into practice at large monthly distributions where pallets of food are brought in and distributed immediately. But pantries with permanent space have had a lot of success using these nudges. So lastly, normalizing the consumption of nutrient-dense foods takes time, but it's important long-term strategy. So you'll see that this can overlap with nutrition education activities, so providing recipes and taste tests that can bring life to unpopular items or introduce unfamiliar items. So one pantry in City Heights had clients from different cultural groups share their favorite ways of preparing watermelon and papaya, which introduced new foods to each group and celebrated traditional foodways. Bundling showcases, bundling that I mentioned is a popular strategy and showcases a recipe or snack idea made from 2 to 4 ingredients found at a pantry, and they're displayed together in an area visible to clients. So the goal of bundling is to promote new ideas using pantry staples, introduce unfamiliar foods, or boost the nutrition of less healthy foods like ramen. So some pantries, as you'll see here in this picture, have set up their recipe cards, bundling and taste tests at wellness or healthy ideas tables at each distribution. So it becomes familiar at the site, and it's become a place for promoting conversation between clients and staff, and even gaining great recipe ideas from clients themselves. So the value statement behind cultural and dietary accommodations is that people of different backgrounds have access to food and information that fits their preferences and health needs. So I imagine most of us working in this field reject the notion that beggars can't be choosers, or that just because you're poor, you don't know what's best for your body or have preferences about the food that you eat. So this focus area asks pantries to look at the ways they're helping their clients meet their cultural and dietary needs. The one first step is to use a client survey to understand the needs of your pantry. This is part of the assessment, but it's also important to make sure these types of questions are asked. So using focus groups can be a great way to learn about a group of clients that may be new to your pantry. We had been hearing from food bank and pantry staff in San Diego that some refugee and immigrant clients weren't taking the food that was being offered at the pantries. So we held a focus group with Haitian, Vietnamese, and Somali clients to understand their food preferences. And we learned about typical foods in their diet and asked for reactions to common pantry foods. Ultimately, we created one-pagers for staff and volunteers. I've uploaded them to the webinar, so you should be able to access those. And this was to help them procure more culturally appropriate foods when financially possible. And also to help identify what foods might benefit from taste testing or recipes, or some further explanation. And overall, it helped foster a better understanding between pantry staff and clients. We've done something similar with one-pagers on specific diet-related disease conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and cholesterol. And it's not meant for staff to take on dietary counseling or nutrition therapy, but to better understand what foods a client might be looking for or avoiding if they have one of these conditions. Another way this can be used is to help volunteers sort and differentiate items for clients. So community connections brings pantries out of isolation and other service providers who can support nutrition security goals. So this can include identifying gleaning partners or local farms to supplement fresh produce, shifting your communications with existing donors by requesting healthier foods. And SNAP-Ed is also a growing area of collaboration and provides knowledgeable staff to support a wide variety of focus area interventions. But many pantries already provide CalFresh and housing referral to clients, and these are important strategies to capture during the Nutrition Pantry program. At a more systems level, we are lucky to have great county support and partnerships in San Diego who buy into not just food security, but nutrition security in the county. So one example that Yanira mentioned has been with the waste reduction initiatives taking place in the county. San Diego Food Systems Alliance and Save the Food San Diego sponsored a cold storage mini grant opportunity for food pantries with the intent of helping to extend the shelf life of produce and other perishables. So 5 pantries in the county, including CRC that was mentioned, received this grant. And we were able to offer the Nutrition Pantry program to these pantries as well. So this ties into our next focus area, which is food sourcing and waste reduction. So this value statement is that healthy foods are prioritized for distribution, and pantries support a variety of waste reduction efforts. So using some of the tools offered by the food bank, like CHOP to take inventory of your order history, and setting goals for increasing inventory of certain items is an example of how you might put this into practice. And what might be a newer concept in pantries is an effort at waste reduction. So in many ways, food banks and pantries are the ultimate waste diverters through their partnerships with grocers and gleaners. But where this can be further incorporated is through simple things like incentives for bringing reusable bags to creating a process for what to do with foods left over at distribution. For some, this is where the relationships have come in, and Catholic Charities Fresno is an example of where there's great coordination with other sites and where excess food is picked up by a site that has a distribution on the next day. We know this is a hard category to get into, but we think it's an area that definitely needs attention and creative solutions. Our last area of focus is nutrition goals and pantry plans, where policies and procedures are documented and align with your commitment to dignified, healthy hunger relief. So this is where all the existing work that you've been doing and the new work that you want to incorporate can be documented. This may include a nutrition policy. So having policies and procedures documented and consistently shared is a way to make sure the great work you're already doing and the improvements you commit to are sustainable and outlive pantry leadership. I'll go to the next slide. I know we're running a little short on time. So when pantries have implemented the goals in their plan, we then consider them a certified nutrition pantry. As Ruthie mentioned at the beginning, the number of seeds and blooms you have determines the gold, silver, or bronze certification level. And this is a newer aspect of the program, but we do expect to certify our first nutrition pantries within the next few months. Lastly, we want to be sure that you're recognized for your work. So we provide opportunities to identify yourselves as certified nutrition pantries to your and donors and community. Some of the food banks we've worked with have offered shopping credits to those that go through the program and recognition at annual events. And as our partnerships grow, you'll have further access to mini grant opportunities. So, I hope you've come away with a sense of the Nutrition Pantry program as a way to organize PSC work in a client-centered way that can still be personalized to each unique pantry setting. So, I'll end with, the next step. So, do you want to get involved with MPP? So, if you're a Catholic Charities organization not yet working with us, we'll be coordinating with Alyssa around next steps. And anyone else, the next step is just to send an email to npp@leahspantrysf.org, and we'll take it from there. So we're actively building relationships, and we very much look forward to working with you to transform your pantry environment. So I know we're a little bit over on time, but I'm going to open it up for a couple minutes for any question and answers. One thing I'll say as questions are coming in is, I want to emphasize that, while this work is currently being done through Leah's Pantry, we don't have to be the only implementers, and we'd love to work with food banks, SNAP educators, and other systems on how to use NPP as a way to organize this work in your communities. So we hope you will, all levels of organizations, and we hope to hear from you as well. So we had some questions on, sharing the recipe rack that I think Yanira touched on. So we are happy to send out a link on the products that they're using. This question that comes in is, any advice for how to inspire nutrition at a local food bank? Again, I think it really comes back to that first step of hearing from your clients. Often it's the clients themselves that will share that what they're interested in, and in more cases than not, it's the healthy, fresh produce, fresh proteins, and it's really less of the emphasis is on the highly processed foods. So gathering that client feedback and bringing it to your staff members, your leadership at the food bank, your board, I think that's the first step in really starting to inspire a change in thinking about prioritizing nutrition at a food bank. So another question is, we need more space for storage to serve our clients. What have others done to tackle a space issue? If any of those on the call would like to chime in to share their own personal experiences, I'd love to hear. And, actually my question box just disappeared. So I don't know if Ruthie, you can see the question box.
I'll also add that a lot of these questions coming in right now, sharing and best practices. And so part of the online portal that is being built out is specifically to create space for this. So really getting those ideas and photos and kind of bright spots over how different pantries in different settings have overcome barriers. And so please stay tuned and check back with our online portal, which will be launching soon for more of this peer-to-peer sharing as well.
Thanks for mentioning that. And, it looks like my question box has disappeared, and it may have disappeared from Ruthie's screen too, but we will be sending out the link to access the webinar. The PDF of the slides will be available, as will the files, the food pantry dietary tips and cultural tips that we've shared. We'll also try and address some of the questions that come up if we haven't been able to previously in this webinar. And I know we're about 10 minutes over time, so I will end the webinar there. And we look forward to hearing any questions that you may have about Nutrition Pantry program. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.